Sal, what's going on, man? My first ever two-time speaker. You were actually back when we were
Really?
hanging out in person. Yeah, last year at the LA EF Summit. Brought the house down, man. I can't talk. I got no coffee yet today. It's early. You brought the house down, man, and in a really unique way that I think we're going to dive into today. But welcome to the summit, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me on. I think you continuing to do this and finding a way to do this, I think, is a testament to kind of a hard worker you are, but also I think the value that you realize that you're providing people. This is really important, especially for people in our space to continue doing. I think we're needed more now than we were before even.
I agree. Thanks. I appreciate that. You guys are doing everything you can as well. We're kind of, I think, in similar boats here in terms of what we do predominantly for a living, and living predominantly in the online world. But maybe somebody who doesn't know you, can you give us a quick intro real quick, and what do you guys do?
Yeah, so I host the Mind Pump podcast. So we're one of the top at the moment fitness podcasts and health podcasts in the world. And before that, I came into it with about 2 decades of experience training clients, managing gyms, managing trainers. So I've been in the fitness space for a very, very long time. But right now we have an online media company. The podcast is the most well-known. It reaches the most people. But we also have a YouTube channel with instructional videos, and we have written content that gets viewed by hundreds of thousands of people now every month, where we write blogs and articles on fitness and health, and we provide free guides, and we sell fitness programs. But we're mainly, if you want to put us in an umbrella, we're a health and fitness media company.
Yeah, and I mean, basically that is what you kicked off with last year at the event. And once you started talking more about the podcasting space, it was like proud dad moment when it's like, yes, what I do matters. Everybody was so intrigued on that platform and how you were able to kind of go, and we're not going to get into the full backstory here, but how are you able to kind of go from years of in-person training and, then online training in the podcasting space. And that's what, you and your co-host have been doing now for several years.
Right.
I'm curious, what have you guys really seen? Like, how's it kind of disrupted your world that much during this global pandemic?
Oh, well, what's interesting, Chase? We entered into the space with zero media experience, like zero, complete, no video, no audio experience. But we came into it with, like I said, decades of training people one-on-one and working with clients through proxy experience. And so that experience, what it teaches you after doing it for a while is how to communicate, what you're trying to communicate, how to do it effectively. And you also learn how you can provide the most amount of value to people. So here we are, we have a podcast and a media company, and this really scary thing happens, this unprecedented in our lifetimes. Like, I've never experienced anything like that. I don't think anybody, unless you're 70 or 80 years old, you probably have never experienced anything like this, especially on a worldwide scale. Lots of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. Lots of fear, especially with how easily accessible media is. So we can constantly look up and read crazy stories, economic, uncertainty. How's this going to affect the economy and our jobs? And so it's a weird, uncertain, scary time. And so we actually all sat down when this started to get real. Like when we started to see, like, okay, this is
like
not
a family meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is not going to go away. It's not just going to stay in China. It's going to be something that's going to impact all of us. Role is our role to our families to have a successful business so we can continue to support them, but we also have a very equally important responsibility to the people that listen to us, to the community. We're, again, I said we were one of the top fitness podcasts, and so that kind of puts us in an interesting position where we're, for lack of a better term, we're leading a lot of people and how people in fitness and health.
Yeah, you're kind of up on a pedestal a little bit, like in a good way, I would say. People look to you.
So, I mean, what we're going to do, a lot of other people are going to look at and maybe emulate. So we're kind of leading in that way, whether you like it or not. If you're in that position, that's where you're at. And so we had a good discussion and meeting. And so we talked about how we could help people the most in our way, because You
Hmm.
know, although we like to inform ourselves, I think we're all pretty, smart dudes. We're not experts
Very,
in
yeah.
infectious. Thank you, thank you. We're not experts in infectious disease, although it's something that I'm interested in. We're not experts in economics, although that's something that we all find very interesting and have been reading about for years. But we are experts in fitness and health, and in the real sense, like how fitness and health can really benefit you, depending on whatever the context of your life is. Because you can use fitness and health to get lean, to get strong, but what a lot of people don't realize is fitness and health, it can help you regardless of your context. If you're stressed, if you're injured, if you're sick, if you're in a
It
situation where,
reduces all-cause mortality. I mean, blanket
yes,
statement.
yes, but you have to be
Yeah.
able to manipulate it and use it,
Mhm.
right? Because when
Yeah.
I'm trying to get shredded and strong, that's different than when I'm in a weird, uncertain, time or whatever.
Right.
So here we are with this medium. We're reaching, millions of people. And so we said, how can we best help? Are we going to just report current events and talk about the science? Are we going to stay on track with helping people get lean and build muscle? And what we actually came to the conclusion of was, look, current events are important, but we want to give people, we want to be positive. We want to remain relatively lighthearted because there's enough news out there. There's enough scary stuff out there. And we want to give people fitness and health solutions for the weird, difficult times that we're in. And so that's what we've been doing with the show. We're keeping it fun and lighthearted. We are reporting current events,
Hmm.
and we are directing and molding all of our information around things like working out at home, how that makes sense for you, how to work out so that you don't feel anxious and stressed, how to be kind to yourself, because the vast majority of us are probably not eating as healthy as we were, because food can be a coping mechanism. Totally fine. I'm not eating as healthy as I normally am. It's a very weird, stressful time. So talking to people through that. So that's kind of what we've been doing with the podcast. Now, one of the metrics that you can use to measure whether or not that's working or not
Hmm.
is how successful your business remains. And so far, Mind Pump has been getting good reactions, good response. Luckily for
Awesome.
us,
Awesome.
a few years ago, we created an at-home workout program about 3 years ago,
Yeah.
before all this started, and that has been very popular. People have found a lot of value in that. So that's been what we've been trying to do, from our standpoint, and how we can best help people.
I I'm hearing, like, in what you've been talking about, and really what a few of the other guests have been talking about, is yes, there are things that we can focus on here and now to just endure, to hold the line, so to speak. But also, pretty much everybody is attributing a lot of how they're enduring right now to past work, and just really basically, if you stay ready, you never really truly need to get ready.
Mm.
And I think that is true in, your outlook on fitness, on nutrition, on business. And I'm not saying we all need to prepare for a zombie apocalypse all the time, but look, most of us, I would say all of us, weren't really prepared or thinking that we would need to prepare for something like this. So you all have things that you could fall back on that are keeping, contributing to the business now and contributing to what people need right now. How do you think you can learn from this situation and stay ready moving forward after this? Like, what have you guys been learning already that you need to always keep in your toolbox?
Oh well, we had Peter Schiff on the podcast recently. He's a pretty famous economist. He got famous by predicting the 2008 financial
Mm.
crisis accurately, right? When everybody was saying there wasn't going to be a problem, he predicted it. So we had him on the show and we were talking. He said something very interesting that made a lot of sense. He said, ask yourself why so many people are in such a tough position financially, why so many businesses, why so many individuals are in such a tough position financially with just being out of work for 4 or 5 weeks. He's 4 or 5 weeks. He said the reason why is because everybody was leveraged to heck and nobody had really any savings. Everybody was kind of running with these really, really, really slim margins and pushing the limits. And so that, luckily for us, we run Mind Pump extremely conservatively. We've never had debt. We've always funded our own endeavors. We always keep a cash in the bank We could have pushed harder. We could have spent more money on growing. We could have, done more of that stuff. But we've always tried to remain conservative. And part of that is because we want to protect the business. So one thing I think that a lot of us can learn from this, and look, I mean, I understand why, by the way. We've been living through unprecedented economic times. It's easy to think, it's easy to think we're going to keep doing all right. But I think if there's anything you can learn financially, it's, the basics. Live well within your means. Don't leverage yourself like crazy, and save some money so that if something happens and you're screwed for 3 months, you've got money and you can be okay. If you're a company and you're not making money for 2 or 3 months, you could still pay people. You could stay afloat. So I think that's really the biggest, one of the biggest lessons there, is to be a little bit more conservative with how you run your businesses, and to not leverage yourself so heavily, because that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a lot of people who, they've got revolving credit card debt. They're living right at the limit. They have streaming services and they pay for things and they go out to dinners and maybe they buy cigarettes or lottery tickets, and however they're living, they're still living at their absolute limit. And when something like this happens, it puts you in a really, really bad position. Now we have the government who's essentially just creating money out of thin air with no real value. So we're going to inflate, our currency a little bit as a result.
Yeah.
So that's the financial, I would say. I think some people learned that from the recession, but I think a lot of us haven't learned that lesson, fully. So if you take anything out of this, take this, like, am I not make any income, so then start to get yourself prepared for that, because you never know what could happen.
So my bad, man. That was such a good point. And the internet got disgruntled on my end, at least. Can you say that point again, please, in case it didn't come through?
Yeah. The last thing I said was that if you are looking at your total financial situation and you cannot survive with 2 or 3 months without making income, that's where I would start. I would start right there and say, okay, can I set myself up so that for 2 or 3 months minimum, if something happens, if there's a medical emergency, if there's, I lose my job or something like that, will I be okay? That's the position you should put yourself in.
Or you could be like me and just make sure that you picked a partner who values savings over spending as much as you do. And if it wasn't for my wife, the savings account wouldn't be non-existent. So yeah, grateful for that for sure. I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit as well on the content creation side of things. Like you guys, I predominantly run now really out of kind of modeling after you guys, an in-person show. I found it in terms of podcasting, content creation, video, relationship building to just be the golden standard. And that's not the case anymore. So how are you all kind of pivoting in what you have set as the standard for your content in terms of guests and in-person relationships? Now it's just you all quarantine and chilling in the studio. Are we running out of ideas? Where do you see like the frequency going? Like, let me pick your brain a little bit on that.
Yeah, so luckily for us, our best performing episodes are the ones where it's just the three of us. So we don't rely heavily on guests. But I will say this, when you do, like you said, when you interview people, it's a lot better in person, which is just not possible right now. So one thing that we're doing is we are creating shows where we interview people for, rather than a full 1 hour interview, we'll interview them for 15 or 20 minutes and maybe have 2 or 3 guests talking about the same topic in the same episode with our commentary in between.
Great idea. You mind if I co-sign on that later? That's a good idea. If I run out of ideas later.
No, I hope you do. So I'll give you an example. We're working on an episode about how the gym industry is handling this crisis. And so we're going to have 3 guests that we talk to for about 10 to 15 minutes with our commentary in between. One of them is owns one of the largest gym investment companies in the world. Another one is a manager of a large gym chain, and then another one owns a small personal training studio. So we're just going to ask them.
Incredible idea.
And so the whole episode is centered around that with shorter interviews, which I think phone interviews lend themselves a little better to that than the traditional long form interview.
Yeah, I mean, kind of take a look at what we're doing here at the summit. I'm just picking everybody's brain. The main goal here is to just kind of like remind everybody, hey, we're all going through the same thing together, which I think is very, very unique right now. Every human being is going through it, but there are multiple walks of life that are going through it. There are stay-at-home moms, there are authors, there are entrepreneurs, there are business owners, there are podcasters, there are a lot of different things. And so hopefully it kind of adds a sense of comfort, which I definitely think what you all are doing there will. You can take one concept, one industry, and just remind people, hey, it takes a lot of different people to kind of make this big machine work, you know?
Oh yeah, I mean, just again, just trying to provide as much value as possible, and in the context of what's going on right now, and in the context of what our expertise is. We try to stay in our lane, and when we move out of it, we try to bring someone on who's an
Um,
expert.
w- yeah, no doubt. One other question just came to mind. You introduce yourself here. We're reminding everybody or telling them for the first time that you and your partners come with decades of experience and history of in-person training, fitness and nutrition coaching. Um, we're in this about what going on week 5 here in California, at least. From the health and fitness perspective, what do you see being, if you can make a future prediction of health concerns, nutritional concerns, all of that, where do you kind of see it going, and how can you maybe make a prediction, a guesstimate, and how can people get in front of that now in terms of just taking care of themselves?
Okay, so use fitness as a way to help you deal with some of the big challenges that are happening right now that you might not even realize. Like, one of the big challenges that I think a lot of us are starting to piece together is lack of structure and schedule to our day. This actually,
Yeah.
believe it or not, this is a big deal, especially when you are in a stressful situation. If you talk to people who were on house arrest or in prison, and you talk to people who navigated that successfully and changed their lives, one of the strategies that they used in those situations was they were able to structure their day. 7 a.m. I do a workout. At noon, I read this book. Then I do the stretching. And what it does is it breaks up the day, and it gives you a little bit more of a sense of control. So one way that I think people are going to start exercising, or at least they should, is rather than doing the 1 hour workout a day, is that they're going to do 15 to 20 minute, sessions throughout the day. So same total time, same total volume, but broken up. You also get that boost of the feel good chemicals throughout the day, which tend to make you feel better. I think people are starting to feel the stress of not having human contact. That's something we all took for granted, by the way. I did. I know I did. We need that, so we're starting to feel that. People are probably using a lot of FaceTime to try to make up for that. So I could see that, being a big thing. Nutrition. I'm gonna guarantee. I guarantee this isn't a guess that I have, but I'm pretty sure people are not eating as well as they normally would. Food can be a coping mechanism. Plus, you have the logistics of processed food has a long shelf life. Nobody wants to go to the grocery store every single day, that kind of stuff. So I think you're going to see the processed food market grow, but I also see that the fitness and health space is probably going to move more in that direction to help provide better answers. Whole foods are always best, but there are better processed foods than other types of processed foods. I do see gyms trying to pivot. They're going to take a big hit. Gyms are going to take a massive, massive hit, but people need to exercise. It is very, very important, not just for our physical health, but for our mental and emotional health. So I see gyms at first taking a big, big hit, but then I see them coming back as we start to realize that the risk is worth the reward with the right precautions. But I think that this is going to permanently change the gym industry. I think you're probably going to see staff members on the floor constantly cleaning equipment. Cardio equipment will probably get spaced out. Group exercise, I don't know how that's going to recover, but you may see group exercise classes get smaller. The price of going to the gym probably will go up, but that's okay because they're so dirt cheap right now that paying twice as much is probably fine for most people. I see at-home fitness kind of take off a little bit, and the at-home fitness equipment industry is already exploded. I think at-home gym equipment has gone up 600% in sales. I've seen pairs of dumbbells for sale on Facebook, like for $100. for a single pair, just reflecting the demand right now. So I think it's going to change, but I think it's going to it's just going to start to again try to match the context of what's going on. So
Yeah, I remember right when all this kind of hit, I was looking on Amazon. I was looking on Rogue's website. Amazon was just getting drained. And on Rogue, I thought I found gold. I went to get some kettlebells and a couple small things. By the time I found them, putting them in my shopping cart, went to check out, they were gone.
yeah,
Um, it's just been a struggle. And you said something that kind of made me laugh. Back when I first got started in the fitness industry, I was just, I worked for a corporate wellness company that private contracted out for like big corporations, and we
mm,
trained and staffed and ran gyms in big businesses. It was just for their employees. And I'll never forget, there was like this checklist of like every hour, or maybe it was like every 45 minutes, we were supposed to go around and clean all the equipment.
yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times, like, oh yeah, I did it. Like, the hours will go by. Like, that's not going to be a thing anymore. I think we're going to be hyper diligent and focused on cleanliness. And that's going to be a selling point, I think, for some of these gym memberships as well. There's going to be a
Oh,
whole new
totally.
cleanliness checklist that you have to pass to get people in the door.
Oh, it's going to be a market demand. Like
Hmm.
like I'm noticing right now that grocery stores, the more that they can show you
Hmm.
that they're clean, the more that they're going to get
Have you
customers,
seen the
right?
big partitions in front of the registers now and everything?
Yep.
Big
Well,
glass
not
shields.
yep, not just that, but places like Target advertising that they close at 9 p.m. now so they can sterilize the whole store. That's
Wow.
a market response, right? Because people are like, oh, I'm going to go to Target because they do that. So I think gyms are going to show you. You're probably going to see
Mm.
staff members whose jobs are to follow people around and wipe down after them on the workout floor. That's all they do.
Wow.
Yeah.
I believe it. I believe
Yep.
it. One last question, Sal, is, outside of like the fitness and nutrition world here, the humanization component, just like I said, we're all going through this as a globe, as a human species. What prediction do you have for us as mankind? Like, where do you really, I'll say optimistically, want to see us on the other side of this?
Oh, geez. Any look, you don't. This is. It may be a prediction, but it's based off of our past behaviors. Every major calamity, pandemic, national emergency, typically results in people remembering what's important and connecting. I remember after September 11th, 2001, scary, very, very scary times, but people came together afterwards. There was a sense of unity. There was a sense of patriotism. I know, especially in New York, New
Mhm.
York is known for, people telling you to fuck off or whatever, right? And you had people from all walks of life coming together and being together. I think we need to be reminded every once in a while. It's already happening. I never talk to my neighbors ever. Now I go outside and
I've
they're
heard a lot of
walking
people
across.
say this. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Saying hi to
everybody's
neighbors they've
saying
never
hi.
spoken to in years.
Totally, people are saying hi. How you doing? How you holding up?
Yeah.
I think we're all realizing just how much we took for granted human contact and connection. I can't listen. Think about it this way. Imagine everything's fine tomorrow, and you go to a busy restaurant with your wife. Normally, you sit with your wife at the table. You eat, kind of ignore the people around you. You think people are going to ignore each other? I guarantee you, people are going to be, oh my God, hey, how you doing? What's going? How you like your food? And
Yeah.
wow, wasn't
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
crazy? And just a whole different sense of you. So I see it, but I also see some potential scary things that we need to pay attention to.
Like what?
Well, governments never let a scary situation go to waste. So be very careful because they'll pass laws that normally they wouldn't be able to pass. Although September 11th brought everybody closer together, it also motivated us to, go to war with Iraq when Iraq wasn't really a big part of it.
I enlisted.
Yeah, it
2003. Yeah.
it made us pass laws that lets the government spy on us through our internet and phone and all that stuff because we were scared. So we got to be careful with that kind of stuff, that the fear doesn't motivate us to do things that may not be
Good
necessarily
point.
great. But
Very good point.
overall, I think people are going to be at least until we need to be reminded again that we're going to be kinder to each other, say hi to each other, and maybe not take for granted the fact that we all need each other.
Amazing, man. Well, Sal, I appreciate your time coming back on here. When I do another one of these, I'm gonna have to hit you up again. I'm gonna get a three-peat. We'll see if it's possible. But
All right.
it was great having you on. Best of luck to you and the guys over at Mind Pump. I love what you're
Thank you.
doing. Thanks for still putting it out. I'll ask you a personal question real quick for anybody else out there, the content creator space or podcaster space. Are you keeping the same amount of episodes going live? Have you down regulated that at all?
No, no, no. We keep everything exactly the same. I think one of the worst things you could do is when you build an expectation from your audience, like if they expect you to have an episode at Thursday at 5 p.m. and you've been doing this for a while, is to change that on them. This is just old school media, information, news networks or excuse me, media networks knew this. They would change the time of a sitcom and lose, a quarter of their audience or whatever. So be consistent would be my recommendation. You don't have to add shows, but try to do exactly what you've been doing so your audience knows to depend on you.
Awesome, man. Well, again, thank you so much. That was Sal to Stefano. You guys can go check out Mind Pump. I'm gonna have all this stuff linked and shared out here for everybody. And I don't have I've been making this running joke now. I got a new one. Actually, everybody's getting a different version of Chase when they come on for the speakers. I either have a hat on, I had a beard for a couple of them. I've been in different environments, and it just keeps changing. So we're going to move on to the general applause for the next speaker. Thanks for Sal for coming on, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Hey, I'm happy you guys are doing okay. I'm glad you guys are doing good.
Likewise. Likewise.
Thank you.